The Galactic Academy floated in the empty space between three solar systems. It was the largest school in the known universe. Students from more than 40 different species came here to learn. They studied science, history, and how to live together in peace. The academy was old. It had existed for more than 2,000 years. Its halls were filled with strange creatures of all shapes and sizes. Park Ho walked through the main corridor with his bag over his shoulder. He was 22 years old, born on Earth in a small city near the mountains of Korea. His black hair was messy, and his eyes were tired from studying late into the night. He was one of only 3 humans at the entire academy. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only made contact with other species about 50 years ago. Most aliens still did not understand them very well. Ho entered the classroom for advanced. It was a large room with seats arranged in a circle. 12 other students were already there. None of them were human. Ho took his usual seat near the back and placed his bag on the floor. To his left sat Shiwaza, and her skin looked like it was made of pale blue crystal. When light touched her, she sparkled like ice in the sun. She was proud and smart, but Ho had noticed that she was also easily scared of things she did not understand. She never spoke to him much. To his right sat, he was a large creature with 4 arms and thick gray skin. His species was known for their strength. They could lift heavy objects and fight powerful enemies, but was actually quite gentle. He liked to read poetry and listen to soft music. However, he startled easily. Loud sounds made him jump. In the front row sat Nyx. She was a small creature covered in soft brown fur. Her large eyes were always wide with worry. Her species had evolved as prey animals on their home world. Fear was built into her blood. She was always looking around, always expecting danger. The door at the front of the room opened and an instructor walked in. He was also but much older than. His gray skin had turned almost white with age. His 4 arms were folded behind his back. He looked at the students with cold, serious eyes. "Today," said, "I will announce your final examination." The students sat up. The final examination was the most important test of the year. It would decide if they passed or failed the class. Continued. This will not be a written test. You will not answer questions on a screen. Instead, you will participate in a practical examination. It is called Controlled Exposure Protocol 17. The room went silent. Then slowly whispers began. Ho looked around and saw fear spreading across every face. His crystal skin seemed to grow darker, gripped the edges of his desk. Nyx made a small, frightened sound. Ho did not understand. He raised his hand. "Instructor, what is Protocol 17? Looked at him. There was something in the instructor's eyes. It might have been curiosity, or it might have been something darker. Protocol 17, said, is a test of psychological strength. You and your classmates will spend 6 hours inside a sealed habitat. During that time, you will share the space with Subject 17. More whispers. Someone in the back of the room said a prayer in their own language. Ho still did not understand. What is Subject 17? Smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Subject 17 is an entity created by our Fear Research Division. It was designed for one purpose. It reads the minds of living creatures. It finds their deepest, oldest fears. Then it becomes those fears. It shows them things that will break them. Ho felt a cold feeling in his chest. Why would the Academy create something like that? To study fear, said simply. Fear is the oldest emotion. It exists in every species. If we understand fear, we understand life itself. Subject 17 helps us study how different species react when they face the things they fear most. Stood up suddenly. Her voice was shaking. Instructor, students who faced Subject 17 in the past were damaged. Some of them could not speak for months. Some of them never recovered. You cannot ask us to do this. Looked at her calmly. I am not asking. This is your final examination. If you refuse, you fail. If you fail, you leave the academy. He paused. The choice is yours. Sat down slowly. Her hands were trembling. Ho looked around the room again. Everyone was afraid. He understood why. An entity that could become your worst nightmare was terrifying. But something else caught his attention, kept looking at him. The instructor seemed especially interested in how the human would react. After class ended, Ho walked through the corridor alone. His mind was full of thoughts. He had heard stories about Subject 17 before. Students talked about it in whispers. They said it was like a living shadow. They said it could make you see things that were not real. They said it fed on fear like a predator feeds on meat. He stopped at a large window and looked out at the stars. Earth was very far away. His family was very far away. He wondered if he would ever see them again. A voice spoke behind him, "Park Ho." He turned. A woman stood there. She was human like him. Her name was, and she was a professor of psychology. She was in her 40s with kind eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. "Professor," Ho said, bowing slightly. "I heard about the examination," she said. Her voice was worried. "You are the first human ever selected for Protocol 17, has never tested a human before. Why does that matter?" Professor stepped closer. "Because we do not know how humans will react. Other species have clear fear responses. They run, they freeze, they fight, but humans," she paused, "humans are different. Your minds work in ways that other species do not understand. Your fear is mixed with other things. Curiosity, stubbornness, hope." Ho was quiet for a moment. "Is that good or bad?" "I do not know," Professor admitted. "That is what worries me. Thinks humans will break faster than anyone else. He thinks you are weak because you are new to the galaxy. But I think he is wrong. I think something else will happen. I just do not know what." She put a hand on his shoulder. "Be careful in there, Ho. Subject 17 has never faced a human mind before, and a human mind has never faced Subject 17. When two unknowns meet, anything can happen." Ho nodded slowly. He looked back out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning. His mother was probably cooking dinner. His younger sister was probably complaining about homework. They had no idea what he was about to face. He took a deep breath. In 2 days, he would enter the habitat. In 2 days, he would meet the thing that was designed to show him his worst fears. He did not know if he was ready. He did not know if anyone could ever be ready for something like that. But he knew one thing: he would not run. Whatever happened, he would face it. That was what humans did. They faced things, even when they were afraid, especially when they were afraid. The stars twinkled silently outside the window, and Ho stood alone with his thoughts. The habitat was massive. It was built inside one of the Academy's oldest sections, a dome made of thick metal and dark glass. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadows. Strange plants grew along the walls, creating areas of deep darkness between patches of dim light. The air was cool and smelled like wet stone. Ho walked through the entrance with the other 12 students. The heavy door closed behind them with a deep, final sound. He heard Nyx whimper softly, placed one of his 4 hands on her small shoulder, trying to comfort her. Stood apart from everyone, her crystal skin reflecting the low light. 6 hours, said quietly. "We only need to survive 6 hours." A speaker crackled somewhere above them. Instructor's voice filled the dome. "The examination begins now. Subject 17 will be released in 60 seconds. Remember, this creature cannot physically harm you. It can only show you things. What you see is not real. Your fear is the only danger." Ho looked around at his classmates. Some of them were breathing fast. Others had closed their eyes, preparing themselves. A tall student with scales covering his body was muttering something in his native language over and over like a prayer. 30 seconds passed, then 40, then 50. The lights flickered once, twice. Then they dimmed to almost nothing, leaving only a soft gray twilight throughout the dome. From somewhere deep in the habitat came a sound. It was not loud. It was like a whisper, like wind moving through dead trees, like something large sliding across the floor. Ho turned toward the sound, but he could not see anything. The shadows seemed thicker now. They seemed to move. Then he saw it. Subject 17 did not walk or crawl. It flowed. It was like dark water moving against gravity. It had no clear shape. Sometimes it looked almost human. Sometimes it looked like a giant insect. Sometimes it was just darkness with no form at all. It moved between the students, circling them, studying them. Nyx was the first to break. The creature stopped in front of her. For a moment nothing happened. Then Nyx screamed. Her eyes went wide and she fell backward, scrambling away on all four of her small legs. "No, no, please, they're here, they found me." Ho could not see what she was seeing, but Nyx could. To her, Subject 17 had become something from her species' ancient past. Predators. Hunters that had eaten her ancestors for millions of years. She could see their teeth, their claws, their hungry eyes. She ran. She ran into the darkness of the habitat, screaming the entire way. Tried to help her. He took 3 steps toward her, but then Subject 17 turned to him. The creature shifted, changed, became something new, stopped. His 4 hands began to shake. His eyes filled with tears. "I can hear it," he whispered. "I can hear my world burning." Ho watched as fell to his knees. The big covered his ears, but it did not help. The sounds were inside his head. He could hear explosions. He could hear screaming. He could hear the fires that had destroyed his home city when he was young. The trauma he had buried for years was now playing in his mind like a terrible song. One by one, Subject 17 moved through the students. Each time it found what they feared most. Each time it became that fear. The scaled student saw himself drowning in deep water. A winged student saw her children dying. A student made of light saw eternal darkness swallowing everything he loved. Within 20 minutes, 11 of the 13 students were scattered throughout the habitat. Some were crying. Some were screaming. Some had gone completely silent, curled into balls, unable to move. Only 2 students remained standing near the entrance, and Ho. Subject 17 approached first. The creature circled her slowly, reading her mind, searching for her fears, tried to be brave. She kept her eyes open. She kept her back straight. Then her skin began to crack. Ho saw it happen. Dark lines appeared on her crystal skin, spreading like ice breaking apart. Looked down at her hands and saw pieces of herself falling away. "No," she whispered. I am breaking apart." She was not really breaking. Her skin was still whole. But in her mind, Subject 17 was showing her what she feared most. She was terrified of losing herself, of shattering, of becoming nothing but broken pieces on the floor. Stumbled away, her hands covering her face. She collapsed near a wall, sobbing quietly as the illusion continued to destroy her. Now Ho was alone. Subject 17 turned to him. The creature seemed larger now, darker, more powerful. It had fed on the fear of 12 students. It was satisfied but not finished. One more remained. The creature moved toward Ho. It circled him once, twice, 3 times. It was reading his mind, searching through his memories, looking for the things that scared him most. Ho stood still. He watched the creature with calm eyes. Subject 17 tried darkness first. The dim light around Ho disappeared completely. He was surrounded by nothing but black emptiness. He could not see his own hands. Ho waited. Darkness was not pleasant, but he had been afraid of the dark as a child. He had learned to live with it. He had learned that darkness was just the absence of light, nothing more. The darkness faded. Subject 17 tried something else. Now Ho was alone, completely alone. The habitat was gone. The other students were gone. He was floating in empty space, and there was no one else in the entire universe. He would be alone forever. Ho closed his eyes and thought about his family, his mother's cooking, his sister's laugh. They were far away, but they were real. He was not truly alone. He never would be. The loneliness faded. Subject 17 shifted again. Now Ho saw himself, dead. His body was lying on the ground, cold and still. His eyes were empty. His heart had stopped. This was how he would end. This was what waited for every living thing. Ho looked at his own dead face for a long moment. He had thought about death before. Everyone did. It was scary. It was sad, but it was also natural. Everything that lived would die. That was not a curse. That was simply the truth. He took a deep breath and spoke to the creature. I know you're trying, it's okay. Subject 17 stopped. The creature froze in place. The image of Ho's dead body disappeared. For several seconds, nothing happened. The entity simply stayed there, motionless, silent. In the control room high above the habitat, alarms began to sound. Doctor leaned forward in her chair, staring at the screens. What is happening? Instructor frowned. I do not know. Subject 17 has never done this before. On the screen, they could see Ho standing calmly in front of the creature. He was not running. He was not screaming. He was not even afraid. He was talking to it. Doctor felt something strange in her chest. It might have been hope. It might have been wonder. She did not know. All she knew was that something unexpected was happening. Something that had never happened before. And it was happening because a human had chosen not to be afraid. Subject 17 did not understand. The creature had existed for 87 years. In that time, it had been used in thousands of experiments. It had faced hundreds of species. It had learned their fears, become their nightmares, and fed on their terror. Every single time, the result was the same: fear, panic, breakdown. But this human was different. Subject 17 could read his mind. It could see his fears. The human was afraid of things just like every other creature. He feared losing his family. He feared failure. He feared the unknown. These were normal fears, easy to use, easy to become. But when Subject 17 tried to become these fears, something strange happened. The human did not break. His fear was there, but it was wrapped in something else, something the creature had never encountered before. Curiosity. The human was curious about Subject 17. He wanted to understand the creature, not escape from it. Compassion. The human felt sorry for Subject 17. He saw the creature as something trapped, something controlled, something that had never been given a choice. Acceptance. The human accepted that fear existed. He did not try to fight it or deny it. He simply let it be there, like an old friend he had learned to live with. Subject 17 did not know what to do with these things. Its programming was simple. Find fear, become fear, feed on fear. But this human's mind was not simple. It was complicated and messy and full of contradictions. The creature circled Ho again, moving slowly, trying to understand. Ho watched it with calm eyes. He was still standing in the same spot, hands relaxed at his sides. Around him, he could hear the other students crying in the distance. Nix was whimpering somewhere in the darkness, was still on his knees covering his ears, was curled against a wall, her eyes squeezed shut. But Ho did not go to help them. Not yet. He knew that Subject 17 was still focused on him. If he moved too quickly, the creature might attack. Instead, he sat down. He crossed his legs beneath him and placed his hands on his knees. It was a position he had learned from his grandmother many years ago. She used to meditate in the mornings, sitting in the small garden behind their house. She had taught Ho that the best way to face something scary was to be still and breathe. Subject 17 stopped moving. The creature seemed confused by this action. Why was the human sitting? Why was he not running? Why was he not afraid? Ho looked at the creature and spoke. His voice was soft and calm. You don't understand me, do you? The creature did not answer. It had no voice. It had never needed one. That's okay, Ho continued. I don't fully understand you either, but I want to try. In the control room, Doctor was watching with wide eyes. The monitors showed Ho's brain activity, his heart rate, his stress levels. Everything was elevated slightly, showing that he was experiencing some fear, but he was controlling it. He was managing it in a way that Subject 17 had never seen before. Instructor stood beside her, his 4 arms crossed. This is wrong. The human should have broken by now. Every other species breaks within the first hour. Humans are not like other species, Doctor said quietly. I tried to tell you. What is he doing? Why is he talking to it? Doctor shook her head. I don't know, but look at Subject 17. It has stopped attacking. It is just watching him. On the screen, Subject 17 had settled into a still position across from Ho. The creature's shapeless form was no longer shifting into nightmares. It was simply there, like a dark cloud resting on the ground. Inside the habitat, Ho continued talking. He told the creature about Earth. He described the oceans, vast and blue, filled with creatures that humans had once feared, sharks and whales and giant squid. He explained how humans had learned to study these creatures instead of killing them, how fear had turned into fascination. He told the creature about wolves. Long ago, humans had been terrified of wolves. The animals hunted in packs and attacked villages. They were symbols of death and danger. But over thousands of years, some humans had chosen to approach the wolves with kindness instead of violence. They fed them. They cared for them. Slowly, the wolves changed. They became dogs. Now, humans love dogs more than almost anything. He told the creature about the darkness. As children, humans feared the night. They imagined monsters hiding in the shadows, but then humans learned to look up. They saw the stars. They gave names to the patterns in the sky. The darkness became beautiful. It became a canvas for dreams. Subject 17 listened. The creature had no ears, but it could understand. It absorbed Ho's words through his thoughts, through his memories, through the images in his mind. The creature had never heard anything like this before. In all its years of existence, Subject 17 had only known one thing: fear. It was created from fear. It lived on fear. It had never experienced anything else. No one had ever talked to it. No one had ever explained things to it. No one had ever treated it like something that could learn. Ho spoke for hours. His voice grew tired, but he did not stop. He told the creature about death. Humans feared death more than almost anything. It was the end of everything. It was the unknown. But humans had also learned to accept it. They held funerals where they cried and laughed and shared memories. They built monuments and wrote songs. They turned the fear of death into a reason to live fully. That is what makes humans strange, Ho said. We are afraid of many things, but we do not let fear control us. We take the things we fear and we change them. We make them part of who we are. Subject 17 was very still. The creature's dark form had softened somehow. It no longer looked sharp and threatening. It looked almost curious, almost gentle. In the control room, Instructor slammed his hand against the console. This experiment has failed. Subject 17 is malfunctioning. We need to terminate the test. Doctor turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with something he did not recognize. Nothing has failed. Nothing is malfunctioning. Don't you see what is happening? I see a weapon that is not working correctly. That weapon is learning, Doctor said firmly. For the first time in 87 years, Subject 17 is learning something other than fear. That human down there is teaching it. Stared at her, teaching it what? Doctor looked back at the screen. Ho was still sitting on the ground. Subject 17 was still beside him. Neither of them was moving, but something had changed between them, something invisible but real. I don't know yet, Doctor admitted. But whatever it is, it might be more important than anything we have ever studied. She turned back to watch the screen, her heart beating fast. Below, in the dim light of the habitat, a human and a monster sat together in silence. Around them, the other students still cried and trembled. But between Ho and Subject 17, something new was growing. Something that had never existed before. Something that both of them were only beginning to understand. 4 hours had passed since the experiment began. Ho was still sitting on the ground. His legs had grown stiff and his back was starting to hurt, but he did not move. Subject 17 was still there, floating just a few feet away from him. The creature had not attacked in hours. It had not tried to show him any more nightmares. It simply stayed close, watching him, listening to him. The other students had grown quieter. Some of them had passed out from exhaustion. Others sat in corners, staring at nothing, their minds still trapped in the fears Subject 17 had shown them. But the creature was no longer paying attention to them. All of its focus was on Ho. Ho had stopped talking a while ago. His throat was dry and his voice was tired. Now he just sat in silence, breathing slowly, keeping himself calm. He could feel the creature's attention on him like a weight. It was strange, but not unpleasant. It reminded him of the way a curious animal might watch a human, trying to decide if it was safe. After a long silence, Ho spoke again. "You've never had anyone talk to you before, have you?" Subject 17 did not answer. It could not speak, but something in its form shifted slightly, almost like a nod. "I thought so," Ho said. "Everyone who comes into this place is afraid of you. They see you as a monster. They run away or try to fight. No one ever stopped to wonder what you might be feeling." The creature moved a little closer. Its dark form rippled like water disturbed by a gentle wind. Ho looked at it carefully. "Do you feel things, or are you just following your programming?" Subject 17 was still for a moment. Then slowly it changed shape. It became smaller, softer. The sharp edges disappeared. The creature looked almost like a dark cloud now, gentle and quiet. Ho understood. The creature was answering him. It was saying that it did feel things. It just had never been allowed to show it. "I'm sorry," Ho said quietly. "I'm sorry they made you like this. I'm sorry they only taught you fear." The creature trembled. It was a small movement, barely visible, but Ho saw it. He felt his heart ache with sympathy. This thing had been created to be a weapon. It had been designed to cause pain and terror, but that was not its fault. It had never been given a choice. Ho thought about his grandmother again. She had always told him that every living thing deserved kindness, even the scary ones, even the dangerous ones. She believed that nothing was truly evil. Some things were just hurt or confused or lost. Looking at Subject 17 now, Ho believed she was right. He slowly raised his hand. He held it out toward the creature, palm open, fingers relaxed. It was a gesture of peace, a gesture of trust. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you, I promise." Subject 17 did not move. The creature stared at his hand for a long time. It had never seen this before. Every other creature it had encountered had used their hands to cover their faces, to push it away, to fight back. No one had ever offered a hand in friendship. Seconds passed, then minutes. Ho's arm grew tired, but he did not lower it. Finally, Subject 17 moved. A small tendril of darkness extended from its body. It reached toward Ho's hand, moving slowly, carefully, as if afraid it might break something precious. The tendril touched his palm. Ho felt a cold sensation, like dipping his hand in cool water. But beneath the cold he felt something else. A trembling, a hesitation. The creature was scared. Subject 17, the thing that had terrified thousands of students, was afraid of him. No, not afraid of him. Afraid of what might happen next. Afraid of being rejected. Afraid of being hurt. "It's okay," Ho said again. "I'm here, I'm not going anywhere." Subject 17 shuddered. The creature's entire form rippled with something that looked almost like emotion. And then, slowly, the creature moved closer. It settled beside Ho like a pet lying down next to its owner. Its dark form touched his side gently, carefully, as if making sure he was real. For the first time in 87 years, Subject 17 felt something other than fear. It felt warmth, not physical warmth, but emotional warmth, the kind that comes from being close to someone who cares. The creature did not have words for this feeling. It had no name for it, but it knew that it was good. It knew that it wanted more of it. Across the habitat had opened her eyes. She was still shaking from her ordeal, but the nightmare had faded. She could see clearly now, and what she saw made no sense. The human was sitting calmly on the ground, and Subject 17 was resting beside him like a tame animal. "What is he doing?" whispered. "Why isn't it killing him?" Nearby had also recovered enough to see what was happening. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. His face was wet with tears, but his eyes were focused on the human and the creature. "I don't know," said. His voice was rough from screaming. "I don't understand any of this." Nyx crept out from her hiding place. Her small body was still trembling with fear, but she could not look away from the scene in front of her. The monster that had shown her the faces of ancient predators was now lying quietly beside the human, looking almost peaceful. "Is it a trick?" Nyx asked. "Is it waiting to attack him?" Shook her head slowly. "I don't think so. Look at it. It looks calm. I didn't know it could look calm." In the control room, Doctor had tears in her eyes. She was watching the monitors, seeing the data scroll across the screens. Subject 17's activity levels had dropped dramatically. The creature's aggression indicators were almost at 0. Its fear projection abilities were dormant. "This is impossible," Instructor said. He was packing back and forth, his 4 arms waving in frustration. "Subject 17 does not bond. It does not form attachments. It is a tool, a weapon, nothing more." "The data says otherwise," Doctor replied quietly. "Look at these readings. The creature's neural activity has changed completely. It's not trying to find fears anymore. It's experiencing something else, something new." "What?" Doctor pointed at the screen showing Ho's brain activity. "Trust. The human is projecting trust, and Subject 17 is absorbing it. The creature has spent its entire existence feeding on fear, but now it's discovered something else, something it likes better." "Stop packing." He stared at the screen with an expression of disbelief. "That is not possible. Subject 17 was not designed for this." "Maybe that's exactly the problem," Doctor said. "Maybe it was designed too narrowly. Maybe it always had the capacity for more, but no one ever gave it the chance." She looked back at the screen, watching the human and the creature sitting together in the dim light of the habitat. "Until now," she added softly. Inside the habitat, Ho had closed his eyes. He was tired, so tired, but he felt strangely peaceful. The creature beside him was no longer scary. It was just a lost thing that had found someone willing to be kind. He placed his hand gently on the creature's dark form. "You're going to be okay," he murmured. "We both are." Subject 17 made a sound. It was small and quiet, almost like a sigh. The creature had never made a sound like that before. It was a sound of contentment, a sound of belonging. For the first time in its long, lonely existence, Subject 17 was not alone. And neither was Ho. Instructor had seen enough. He stood in the control room, staring at the screens with cold anger in his eyes. The experiment had failed. Subject 17 was supposed to break the students, to measure their fear responses, to gather data that would help the Academy understand psychological weakness. Instead, a human had ruined everything. Doctor was still watching the monitors, her face filled with wonder. She did not see the danger. She did not understand what was about to do. "This experiment is over," announced. "I am ending it now." Doctor turned to look at him. "What do you mean? We still have 2 hours left, and look at this data. This is the most significant finding in decades. Subject 17 is showing emotional responses we never knew it was capable of." "That is exactly the problem," said. "Subject 17 is a tool. It is not supposed to have emotional responses. It is supposed to create fear and measure fear, nothing else. But this proves that it's more than we thought. This could change how we understand consciousness, emotion, even artificial life forms. Waved his hand dismissively. I do not care about those things. I care about results, and this experiment has produced no useful results. He turned to one of the control panels. I am activating the aggression protocol. Doctor's face went pale. No, you cannot do that. I can and I will. Subject 17 has become docile. The aggression protocol will force it back into its proper state. It will finish the examination as it was designed to. If you activate that protocol, you will flood Subject 17 with stimulants. It will become violent. It will attack the students. Good, said simply. That is what it is supposed to do. Doctor stepped in front of the control panel. I will not allow this. Those are my students down there. One of them is human, the first human ever tested. You cannot put him in danger just because the experiment did not go the way you wanted. Looked at her with his cold, ancient eyes. Move aside, Doctor. No. For a moment they stood facing each other. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Then reached out with two of his 4 arms and gently moved Doctor to the side. She was strong for a human, but he was much stronger. I am sorry, said, though he did not sound sorry at all. But this is my experiment, my decision. He pressed the button. Inside the habitat, Subject 17 screamed. It was a terrible sound. It was not something the creature was supposed to be able to make. It was a sound of pain, of confusion, of sudden violence forced into a mind that had just discovered peace. Ho jumped to his feet. The creature beside him was changing. Its soft, gentle form was becoming sharp again. Dark tendrils burst out from its body, reaching in every direction. Its size grew rapidly, filling more and more of the space around them. What's happening? Ho shouted. He could feel the creature's pain through their connection. Something was hurting it. Something was forcing it to change. Across the habitat, the other students started screaming again. Nyx tried to run, but one of Subject 17's tendrils lashed out and struck her in the side. She was thrown against a wall and fell to the ground, unconscious. Roared and charged toward the creature. He was trying to protect the others. His 4 arms were raised, ready to fight. But Subject 17 was too fast. 3 tendrils wrapped around him and pinned him to the floor. He struggled, but he could not break free. Pressed herself against a wall, her crystal skin flickering with fear. It's gone mad. It's killing us. The creature's form continued to grow. It was being flooded with chemicals from somewhere above, chemicals that amplified its aggression, that turned its gentle curiosity back into predatory instinct. The peace it had found with Ho was being burned away, replaced with artificial rage. But somewhere inside Subject 17, something was fighting back. The creature did not want to hurt these people. It did not want to become a monster again. For the first time in its existence, it had felt something good. It had felt trust. It had felt belonging. It did not want to lose that. But the chemicals were strong, so strong. They screamed through its body, demanding violence, demanding destruction. Ho saw the creature struggling. He could see its form shifting back and forth, sometimes sharp and dangerous, sometimes soft and gentle. It was fighting itself. It was trying to resist. He made a decision. He walked directly toward the creature. The other students screamed at him to stop, shouted that he was going to die, still pinned to the floor, yelled at him to run. Ho did not run. He walked until he was standing directly in front of Subject 17's massive, shifting form. Dark tendrils whipped around him, close enough to touch his skin. Any one of them could kill him in an instant. Hey, Ho said. His voice was calm, firm. Look at me. The creature's form shuddered. 1,000 eyes seemed to appear in its darkness, all of them fixed on the human standing before it. I know they're hurting you, Ho continued. I can feel it. Something is happening to you and it's making you scared and angry, but you're stronger than this. I know you are. The creature trembled. The chemicals were still burning through its body, demanding violence. but Ho's voice was reaching something deeper, something that had only just been born. "You have a choice," Ho said. "They made you to be a weapon. They designed you to create fear, but that's not all you are. I know that now. You know that now." A tendril lashed out toward him. Ho did not flinch. The tendril stopped just inches from his face, trembling in the air. "You could hurt me right now," Ho said quietly. "You could kill everyone in this room. That's what they want you to do. That's what the chemicals are telling you to do." He reached up slowly and touched the trembling tendril with his hand. It was cold. It was shaking. "But you don't have to listen to them. You can choose something different. You can choose to be more than what they made you." The creature's form flickered. Sharp became soft. Dark became lighter. The chemical rage was still there, but something else was fighting against it. Something new, something stronger. "I believe in you," Ho said. "You're not a monster. You're just someone who was never given a chance to be anything else. Until now." Subject 17 made a sound. It was not a scream this time. It was something different, softer, sadder, like a cry of pain mixed with hope. The creature looked at Ho. It looked at the hand touching its tendril. It looked at the human who was not running, who was not afraid, who still believed in it even now. And Subject 17 made its choice. The tendrils holding suddenly released him. The massive, raging form began to shrink. The sharp edges became smooth. The darkness became softer. In the control room, alarms were screaming. Red lights flashed across every screen. Instructor stared at the monitors in disbelief. "It's rejecting the protocol," he said. "That's impossible. Subject 17 cannot reject the aggression protocol." Doctor smiled through her tears. "It seems you were wrong." On the screen, they watched as Subject 17 gathered itself around Ho, not attacking him, protecting him. The creature had stopped fighting the other students. It had stopped growing. It was still trembling with the effort of resisting the chemicals in its body, but it was winning. Because it had found something worth fighting for. It had found someone to trust. And it was not going to let that go. Subject 17 was in pain. The chemicals burned through its body like fire. Every part of its being was screaming at it to attack, to destroy, to become the monster it had been designed to be. The aggression protocol was one of the strongest controls ever created. No previous test subject had ever resisted it. But Subject 17 was no longer the creature it had been before. The creature coiled itself around Ho, forming a protective barrier between him and the rest of the habitat. Its dark form was trembling with the effort of holding back the rage, but it did not attack. It did not hurt anyone. Ho stood inside the creature's embrace. He could feel its pain, its struggle, its desperate desire to stay in control. He placed both hands against its dark body. "You're doing it," he whispered. "You're fighting it, keep fighting." In the control room, Instructor was becoming more and more angry. The experiment had completely failed. Subject 17 was not only refusing to attack, it was actively protecting the human who had ruined everything. "Purge the habitat," ordered. Doctor spun to face him. "What? You can't be serious." "I am completely serious. If Subject 17 will not obey the aggression protocol, then it is malfunctioning. We need to eliminate it and the contamination it has experienced." "Contamination? You mean the human? You're talking about killing a student." His cold eyes showed no emotion. "I am talking about protecting the future of this research. Subject 17 was the most successful fear entity ever created. If it can be turned by a simple conversation, then it is worthless to us. We need to destroy it and start over." He reached for the control panel again. His 4 hands moved toward the buttons that would activate the habitat's defense systems. These systems were designed to kill anything inside the dome: poison gas, automated weapons, fire. Doctor grabbed his arm. "I will not let you do this." Pushed her away with little effort. "You cannot stop me, Doctor. I am the senior researcher. This is my decision." This is murder. There are 13 students in that habitat. They are acceptable losses. Doctor felt sick. She had known that was cold, that he cared more about data than people. But she had not realized how far he would go. He was willing to kill 13 young people just to protect his experiment. She threw herself between and the control panel. No. Stared at her. Move. No, I will not let you kill my students. Then you will die with them. He raised one of his 4 arms to push her aside again. But before he could touch her, an alarm sounded throughout the control room. A new alarm. A different alarm. Both of them looked at the main screen. Inside the habitat, something incredible was happening. Subject 17 had sensed the danger. The creature could feel the systems activating, could sense the weapons warming up, could detect the poison gas preparing to release. It understood what was about to happen. The people who controlled it were going to kill everyone in the dome, including Ho. The creature would not allow that. Subject 17's form expanded suddenly. Its dark body spread across the entire habitat like a massive blanket. It covered the students, wrapping around them gently, shielding them with its own body. The automated weapons activated. They fired hundreds of shots into the darkness. But Subject 17 absorbed the damage. Its body was not solid. The bullets passed through it, hurting it but not destroying it. The poison gas began to fill the dome. But Subject 17 pulled the gas into itself, filtering it away from the students, keeping them safe inside pockets of clean air. The fire came next. Flames erupted from vents in the walls designed to burn everything inside the habitat. Subject 17 screamed in pain as the fire touched it. Its body burned and reformed, but it did not retreat. It did not stop protecting the students. Lay on the ground, surrounded by darkness. She could feel Subject 17 all around her, but she was not afraid. The creature was not hurting her. It was protecting her. She could feel it absorbing bullets, filtering poison, blocking flames. It was suffering for her. For all of them. Why, she whispered, why are you doing this? She did not expect an answer, but she felt something, a thought, a feeling. It came from Subject 17 itself, pressed directly into her mind. Because he believed in me. Was nearby, also wrapped in the creature's protection. He heard the same thought in his mind. So did Nix. So did every student in the habitat. They all heard Subject 17's voice for the first time. Because someone finally showed me kindness, I will not let that kindness die. In the control room, Doctor pointed at the screen. Look at what it's doing. Was staring in shock. Subject 17 was supposed to be a weapon, a tool for creating fear. But right now, it was sacrificing itself to protect the very people it had been designed to terrify. That is impossible, whispered. It cannot do that, it was not programmed for this. Doctor turned to him, her eyes blazing. That is exactly the point, you fool. It was never programmed for kindness. It was never programmed for love. But it learned anyway. The human taught it. And now it is choosing to be something more than you ever allowed it to be. She stepped toward the control panel. I am ending this, now. Grabbed her arm. You cannot override my authority. Watch me. Doctor twisted free and slammed her hand against the emergency stop button. The weapons went silent. The gas stopped flowing. The fire extinguished. The habitat was silent. On the screen, they could see Subject 17 slowly pulling itself back together. The creature was damaged. Parts of its body were torn and burned, but it was still alive. And the students were safe. Ho emerged from the creature's protective embrace. He looked around at his classmates, all of them shaken but unharmed. Then he looked at Subject 17. The creature's form was smaller now, weaker. The battle had cost it greatly, but it was still there, still close to him, still protecting him. Ho knelt down and placed his hand against the creature's damaged body. Thank you, he said softly. Thank you for choosing us." Subject 17 made a sound. It was weak and quiet, almost like a sigh, but there was something in that sound that had never been there before. Contentment, peace, pride. It had been created to be a monster, but it had chosen to be something else. And that choice had saved 13 lives. Crawled over to Ho and the creature. Her crystal skin was cracked in several places from the stress, but she was alive. She looked at Subject 17 with new eyes. "I was so scared of it," she said quietly. "I thought it was evil, but it's not, is it?" Ho shook his head. No, it was never evil. It was just doing what it was taught. No one ever taught it anything different. Joined them, his large form still shaking from the ordeal. "The human taught it," he said slowly. "You taught it." Ho looked at Subject 17, at the creature that had nearly died to protect them all. "I just showed it that there was another way. It made the choice all on its own." Nyx crept closer, her small body still trembling, but she was not running anymore. "What happens now?" she asked. Ho did not have an answer. He did not know what the Academy would do. He did not know if Subject 17 would survive. He did not know if any of them would face punishment for what had happened. But he knew one thing. He was not going to abandon the creature that had saved them all, no matter what happened next. "Now," he said quietly, "we fight for it, the way it fought for us." 3 days passed after the experiment ended. The students were taken to the medical wing of the Academy. Their physical injuries were treated. Their mental states were evaluated. Most of them needed time to recover from what Subject 17 had shown them. But they were alive. All 13 of them were alive, thanks to the creature that had been designed to break them. Subject 17 was placed in a containment cell deep beneath the Academy. The creature was weak and damaged from the battle. It rested in darkness, slowly healing, waiting to learn its fate. Instructor had demanded its immediate destruction. He called it dangerous. He called it corrupted. He said it could never be trusted again. The Academy Council was called to decide. The council was made up of 12 members from 12 different species. They were the oldest and beings in the Academy, responsible for making decisions that would affect the future of interstellar education. They gathered in a great hall, sitting in a circle, their faces serious and thoughtful. Ho was called to testify. He walked into the hall alone. He was nervous. His hands were sweating, but he kept his back straight and his head high. He had asked for this chance. He had demanded it, and now he had to use it. The oldest member of the council spoke first. He was very old, with pale skin and eyes that seemed to see through everything. His species had been one of the first to make contact with humans decades ago. He remembered those early days when humans were strange and new. "Park Ho of Earth," the old one said. "You wish to speak on behalf of Subject 17. This is unusual. No one has ever spoken for the creature before." Ho nodded. "That is part of the problem, honored council. Subject 17 has existed for 87 years. In all that time, it has been treated as nothing more than a tool, a weapon. No one has ever asked what it thinks or feels. No one has ever treated it as a being with its own mind." Instructor stood in the corner of the hall. His 4 arms were crossed and his face was filled with anger. "Subject 17 does not have a mind. It has programming. It follows commands. What happened in the habitat was a malfunction, nothing more." "I disagree," Ho said. He turned to face the council directly. "I spent hours with Subject 17. I talked to it, I listened to it, and I felt its responses. The creature has thoughts, it has feelings, it has desires. It was just never allowed to express them." Another council member spoke. She was tall and thin with feathers instead of hair. "You claim the creature has feelings. What evidence do you have?" Ho took a deep breath. When the aggression protocol was activated, Subject 17 was flooded with chemicals designed to make it violent. Every other time this protocol was used, the creature obeyed immediately. It attacked without hesitation. But this time it fought back. It resisted. Perhaps it was damaged, the feathered one suggested. No, Ho said firmly. It was not damaged. It was making a choice. I saw it struggling. I felt its pain. The chemicals were telling it to kill us, but something inside it said no. Something chose to protect us instead. The hall was silent for a moment. The council members looked at each other, their expressions thoughtful. Ho continued. When the defense systems activated, Subject 17 had every reason to save itself. It could have run. It could have hidden. Instead, it spread itself over all 13 students. It took bullets and poison and fire into its own body to keep us safe. He paused, remembering the feeling of the creature's protection wrapped around him. A tool does not sacrifice itself for others. A weapon does not choose mercy over violence. Only a being with a mind and heart can make those choices. Subject 17 made them. Instructor stepped forward. This is nonsense. The human has been affected by the creature. It has manipulated him somehow. Subject 17 must be destroyed before it corrupts anyone else. I have not been corrupted, Ho said. His voice was calm but strong. I have simply seen the truth. Subject 17 is not our enemy. It is a victim. It was created and used and hurt for decades. No one ever showed it kindness. No one ever offered it a choice. Until now. Doctor stepped forward from the side of the hall. She had been waiting to speak. Honored Council, I have studied the data from the experiment. The changes in Subject 17's behavior are real and significant. The creature has developed new neural patterns, new response systems, new ways of processing information. This is not corruption. This is growth. The oldest council member raised his hand for silence. The hall became quiet. He looked at Ho with those ancient, seeing eyes. Young human, he said slowly. In my long life I have seen many strange things. I have seen wars and peace. I have seen hatred and love. I have seen species destroy each other and species save each other. He paused, but I have never seen anything quite like this. A creature of fear learning to feel trust. A weapon choosing to become a shield. This is new. This is unexpected. He turned to the other council members. I remember when humans first came to this part of the galaxy. Many species were afraid of them. Humans were strange. They did not think like us. They did not react like us. Their emotions were confusing and contradictory. He looked back at Ho. But I learned something about humans over the years, something important. Humans do not conquer their fears. They do not destroy the things that scare them. Instead, they befriend them. They turn enemies into allies, darkness into light, terror into understanding. The old one stood. It was difficult for him, but he managed. He looked at the entire council. Subject 17 was designed to create fear, but this human showed it something else. He showed it kindness, trust, hope, and the creature responded. It changed, it grew. He turned to Instructor. You wish to destroy Subject 17 because it no longer behaves as you intended. But perhaps that is not a failure. Perhaps that is a success. Perhaps we should learn from this, not erase it. His face twisted with anger, but he said nothing. The oldest council member continued. I vote that Subject 17 be preserved. It should be placed in the care of doctor for study and rehabilitation. And, he looked at Ho. The human Park Ho should serve as its primary handler. He has earned the creature's trust. It would be wrong to separate them now. One by one, the other council members voted. 8 voted in favor of preservation. 4 voted for destruction. The decision was made. Subject 17 would live. Weeks later, Ho sat in a quiet laboratory in a peaceful part of the academy. The room was filled with soft light and comfortable furniture. It did not look like a containment cell. It looked like a home. Subject 17 rested beside him. The creature had healed from its injuries. Its dark form was soft and gentle now, no longer sharp or threatening. It stayed close to Ho, always near him, always content in his presence. Other students walked past the observation window. Some of them were still nervous. They remembered what Subject 17 had been, but they also remembered what it had become. They remembered how it had protected them. Stopped at the window. Her crystal skin had been repaired, the cracks healed. She looked at Ho and the creature and she smiled. "How is it today?" she asked through the intercom. Ho smiled back. "Better. It's learning new things every day. Yesterday it tried to make a flower. It did not look much like a flower, but it tried." Laughed softly. "A monster that makes flowers. I never thought I would see such a thing." "It was never a monster," Ho said. "It was just lost, like any of us could be." Nodded slowly. She understood now. They all did. After she walked away, Ho turned back to Subject 17. The creature made a small sound, something like contentment. It pressed closer to him, gentle and warm. "You're going to be okay," Ho said softly. "We both are." Subject 17 hummed. It was a new sound, something it had learned since coming to the laboratory. It was a sound of peace, a sound of belonging, a sound of trust. The experiment designed to terrify an entire class had found something it was never programmed to seek. It had found someone who saw it as more than a monster. It had found a friend. And in finding that friend, it had found itself.